Bonnie Elizabeth Parker, famously known as half of the notorious criminal duo Bonnie and Clyde, was born on October 1, 1910, in Rowena, Texas. Her early life was shaped by hardship, loss, and resilience, which would later contribute to her fateful path into crime. To understand Bonnie's transformation from a small-town girl to a legendary outlaw, it is essential to explore her upbringing, family background, and the socio-economic factors that influenced her early years. Bonnie Parker was the second of 3 children born to Charles Robert Parker and Emma Krause Parker. Her father, a bricklayer, died when Bonnie was just 4 years old, leaving the family in financial distress. After Charles's death, Emma moved the family to Cement City, an industrial suburb of Dallas, to live with her parents. This move marked the beginning of a challenging period for young Bonnie. Despite the financial difficulties, Emma Parker worked tirelessly to provide for her children. She found work as a seamstress, and the family lived in a modest home. The Parker family was close-knit, and Bonnie was especially close to her mother, Emma. This strong family bond would remain significant throughout Bonnie's life, even as she embarked on her criminal endeavors. Bonnie Parker was an intelligent and ambitious student. She excelled academically and had a passion for literature and poetry. Her love for the arts was evident in her writing. She often penned poems and stories, showcasing her creative talents. Bonnie's teachers recognized her potential, and she was considered a bright student with a promising future. During her high school years at Cement City High School, Bonnie was known for her vibrant personality and striking looks. She was petite, with reddish gold hair and a charismatic presence that drew people to her. Despite her small stature, Bonnie had a strong will and an independent spirit. She participated in school plays and talent shows where she displayed her flair for drama and performance. Bonnie's aspirations extended beyond her academic achievements. She dreamed of becoming an actress or a poet, and she idolized Hollywood stars. These ambitions reflected her desire to escape the confines of her impoverished upbringing and seek a more glamorous and exciting life. In 1926, at the age of 15, Bonnie Parker married Roy Thornton, a classmate from Cement City High School. The marriage was tumultuous from the start, marked by Roy's criminal activities and frequent absences. Roy was involved in petty thefts and robberies, and he often found himself in trouble with the law. Despite the challenges, Bonnie remained devoted to Roy and wore his wedding ring for the rest of her life, even after they became estranged. The marriage to Roy Thornton exposed Bonnie to a world of crime and instability. Roy's criminal lifestyle and subsequent imprisonment left Bonnie disillusioned and struggling to find her place in the world. During this period, she worked various jobs, including waitressing, to support herself. Despite these setbacks, Bonnie's resilience and determination kept her moving forward. Clyde Chestnut Barrow, best known as one half of the infamous criminal duo Bonnie and Clyde, grew up in a world marked by poverty, hard work, and early encounters with crime. To understand how Clyde transformed from a struggling youth into a notorious gangster, it is crucial to delve into his early life, family background, and the socio-economic conditions that influenced his formative years. Family background and early life. Clyde Barrow was born on March 24, 1909 in Tellico, Texas, a small rural community southeast of Dallas. He was the 5th of 7 children born to Henry Basil Barrow and Cumie T. Walker Barrow. The Barrow family was poor, and Henry Barrow worked as a sharecropper to support his large family. The life of a sharecropper was difficult, with long hours of labor and little financial reward, making it challenging for the Barrows to make ends meet. In the early 1920s, the Barrow family moved to Dallas in search of better opportunities. They settled in the impoverished neighborhood of West Dallas, where conditions were harsh and resources scarce. The family lived in a tent for the first few months before Henry managed to save enough money to buy a small makeshift house. Despite their hardships, the Barrows were a close-knit family, and Cumie Barrow was particularly devoted to her children, instilling in them a sense of loyalty and resilience. Education and early influences. Clyde Barrow attended public school but dropped out after the 5th grade to help support his family. Like many young boys in his situation, Clyde took on various odd jobs, including working on farms and running errands. These early experiences taught him the value of hard work. but they also exposed him to the frustrations and limitations faced by those living in poverty. As a teenager, Clyde began to associate with a group of local youths involved in petty crimes. These associations marked the beginning of his descent into criminal activities. The allure of quick money and the excitement of rebellion against societal constraints were powerful motivators for a young man looking to escape the drudgery of his impoverished existence. Clyde's older brother, Marvin Ivan Buck Barrow, also had a significant influence on him. Buck was frequently in trouble with the law, and his criminal exploits served as a model for Clyde. The bond between the brothers was strong, and Clyde looked up to Buck, despite the latter's run-ins with the authorities. Buck's criminal activities and subsequent incarcerations exposed Clyde to a world where breaking the law seemed like a viable means of escaping poverty. Early criminal activities. Clyde Barrow's first known criminal act occurred in 1926 when he was 17 years old. Along with his brother Buck, he was involved in a series of minor thefts and burglaries. These early crimes were relatively low profile, involving the theft of chickens, turkeys, and other items that could be easily sold for cash. As Clyde grew older, his criminal activities escalated. He moved from petty theft to more serious crimes, including car theft and armed robbery. The thrill of these activities, combined with the potential for significant financial gain, drew Clyde deeper into the criminal underworld. His increasing involvement in crime led to frequent clashes with law enforcement, and he was arrested multiple times during his late teens and early 20s. One of the significant turning points in Clyde's early criminal career came in 1929 when he was arrested for a series of car thefts and burglaries. He was sentenced to Eastham Prison Farm in Texas, a notoriously brutal and harsh facility. Clyde's experiences at Eastham profoundly affected him, hardening his resolve and deepening his animosity toward the authorities. During his time at Eastham, Clyde endured severe abuse and mistreatment. The harsh conditions and brutal treatment of inmates left a lasting impact on him, fueling his desire for revenge against the prison system and law enforcement. These experiences contributed to Clyde's transformation from a small-time thief to a hardened criminal determined to strike back at the system that had wronged him. The meeting of Bonnie and Clyde, the genesis of an infamous crime spree. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow are names that have become synonymous with criminal infamy. Their meeting in the early 1930s marked the beginning of one of America's most notorious crime sprees. This essay delves into the circumstances of their first encounter and the nature of their subsequent criminal activities, exploring how these two individuals became the legendary figures known as Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow's paths first crossed in January 1930. At the time, Bonnie was 19 years old, and Clyde was 20. The encounter took place at the home of Clyde's friend Clarence Clay in the West Dallas area. Bonnie was staying with a friend, whose husband had been arrested, and it was at this friend's house that she met Clyde. The attraction between Bonnie and Clyde was immediate and intense. Bonnie, who was separated from her husband, Roy Thornton, found in Clyde a kindred spirit who shared her desire for adventure and excitement. Clyde, who had a history of minor criminal activities, saw in Bonnie a loyal partner who was willing to stand by him despite the dangers of his lifestyle. Early criminal activities. Clyde Barrow's criminal activities began before he met Bonnie, but their partnership quickly escalated his ventures into more serious crimes. Initially, Clyde was involved in petty thefts and car thefts. His first major run-in with the law was in 1926 when he was arrested for car theft and sentenced to prison. The brutal experiences he endured in Eastham Prison Farm hardened him and fueled his hatred for the legal system. After their meeting, Bonnie and Clyde's criminal activities became more organized and ambitious. They began with small-scale robberies targeting grocery stores, gas stations, and other small businesses. These early crimes were often driven by necessity as they needed money and resources to survive. As Bonnie and Clyde's relationship grew, so did their criminal ambitions. They formed the Barrow Gang, which included several associates who joined them in their exploits. Notable members of the gang included Clyde's brother, Marvin Buck Barrow, Buck's wife, Blanche Barrow, W.D. Jones, and Henry Methvin. The Barrow Gang's operations expanded to include bank robberies, which were more lucrative but also more dangerous. Their modus operandi involved meticulous planning and swift execution. Clyde's skill as a driver was crucial to their success, as he could navigate escape routes with remarkable speed and precision. From 1932 to 1934, Bonnie and Clyde, along with the Barrow gang, embarked on a crime spree that spanned several states, including Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Louisiana, and Arkansas. They committed a series of daring robberies and engaged in numerous shootouts with law enforcement. One of the most infamous incidents occurred in April 1933 when the gang was involved in a violent confrontation with police in Joplin, Missouri. The shootout resulted in the deaths of 2 law enforcement officers and forced the gang to flee, leaving behind a cache of weapons, stolen goods, and a camera with undeveloped film. The photographs found in the camera, which included images of Bonnie posing with guns and cigars, helped solidify their notoriety and romanticized image in the public eye. Bonnie and Clyde's criminal activities were characterized by their willingness to use violence when necessary. They were involved in multiple shootouts with police and were responsible for the deaths of at least 9 law enforcement officers and several civilians. The gang's reputation for brutality and their ability to evade capture made them both feared and admired by the public. The socio-economic context of the Great Depression played a significant role in shaping public perception of Bonnie and Clyde. The economic collapse of the late 1920s and early 1930s left many Americans disillusioned and struggling to survive. In this environment, Bonnie and Clyde were often seen as modern-day Robin Hoods, defying a system that had failed so many. While their actual actions did not support the Robin Hood myth, as they were primarily motivated by self-preservation and financial gain, the media portrayal of Bonnie and Clyde contributed to their legendary status. Newspaper articles and photographs depicted them as glamorous outlaws living a life of excitement and rebellion, which resonated with a populace weary of economic hardship and social injustice. Despite their skill in evading capture, the relentless pursuit by law enforcement eventually led to Bonnie and Clyde's downfall. In early 1934, the gang's activities had drawn significant attention, and a special task force was assembled to apprehend them. This task force was led by former Texas Ranger Frank Hamer, who was determined to bring the outlaws to justice. The turning point came with the involvement of Henry Methvin, a member of the gang who sought leniency for his own crimes by betraying Bonnie and Clyde. Methvin's father collaborated with law enforcement to set a trap for the duo. On May 23, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde were ambushed and killed in a hail of bullets on a rural road in Bienville Parish, Louisiana. Their violent deaths marked the end of their crime spree and the beginning of their enduring legacy. The story of Bonnie and Clyde has left an indelible mark on American culture. Their exploits have been immortalized in books, songs, and films, most notably the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. The film's portrayal of the outlaws as tragic anti-heroes further cemented their status as cultural icons. The legacy of Bonnie and Clyde is complex, blending elements of romance, rebellion, and criminality. They are remembered not only for their crimes, but also for their defiance of authority and the dramatic way in which they lived and died. Their story continues to fascinate and captivate audiences, serving as a reminder of the tumultuous era in which they lived and the enduring allure of the outlaw. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow's meeting set in motion a series of events that would make them 2 of the most infamous criminals in American history. Their partnership, fueled by a desire for excitement and a rejection of societal norms, led to a crime spree that captivated the nation. Understanding the circumstances of their meeting and the nature of their crimes provides insight into the factors that propelled them into infamy and the lasting impact they have had on American culture. This video delves into the circumstances of Bonnie and Clyde's meeting and their subsequent criminal activities, exploring how their partnership led to one of the most infamous crime sprees in American history. Stay tuned for more in-depth analyses of history's most notorious figures on Classified Capsule. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history's dark past. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest content. See you next time.